All right. Happy Friday, y'all. It's been a minute, Instagram. I am just getting myself set up here. And I am going to try this without my earbuds in. It's supposed to be live on Facebook as well. However, as normal, something has changed. And the interface doesn't seem like it wants to let me do what I normally do. So, all right. Well, I am not sure what's going on with Facebook, but I put a note in here. All right, so today I want to talk about this new series that I'm started, and it's called Unmothered to Empowered. And what that means is, recognizing that many of us have started out without some of the things we needed. Maybe we had a toxic or narcissistic mother, or our mom just wasn't available to us emotionally growing up. And so maybe we didn't get some of the things that we needed. And so there is now maybe some trauma that's associated with that. Maybe it's playing out in our lives now. Even though we're older, we're grown up. It's sometimes hard to still manage. And so because of that, I wanted to do this series on what are some of the benefits that you can experience when you heal. And so understanding that healing can be a lengthy process. It can actually be lifelong. It just depends on who you are. Everybody's journey is different. But what I wanted to talk about is just, some of the good things that come out of healing. And of course we know that there are some, but I feel like there are a number of things, and I just want to cover them. And so one of them is learning your self-worth. Because a lot of times, when you grow up in a home such as what I did, you may have your mother there, but it's about more than just being there, meaning being present. It's how you show up. And so for me, I didn't learn my self-worth early because my mother, she was young, and I can say she didn't know what she was doing when it came to raising a child, but I think she had a lot of inner turmoil going on. She had a lot of things going on with herself. And I talk about this in my book. I talk about knowing the backstory. And so now that I know a lot of what went on with my mother, it helps explain some things. It doesn't make it all right, but it helps to explain some things. And so I didn't get what I needed. A lot of the time I wasn't built up. And so when I'm talking about building up children when they're young, I don't mean like just the praise, because yes, you have to praise your kids. You need to encourage them. You absolutely need to tell them they can be anything that they want to be. Hey Emma, you need to tell them that they're loved, but more than that, you have to show them. And I think that is what is missing a lot of the time when you have a mother that isn't available for whatever reason. It could be she's dealing with mental illness. It could be she's just too wrapped up in herself. She's very young. She's inexperienced. There can be a number of reasons that lead to your mom being toxic. Narcissism is a personality disorder, and that is something that people sometimes are just born with. So there can be many different reasons that you won't get what you need. But make no mistake about it, childhood is a very important time. And I know for a lot of us, that's the time where most of us were scarred. Most of the trauma comes out of that. Yes, there are sometimes other incidents that occur when you're older in your adult life. But for many of us, the childhood has had some events happen, and now the trauma is playing out right now. And when I say trauma, I mean the response to what happened to you when you were growing up, because that's what trauma is. Trauma is a response. And so however you're responding now to what you didn't get, that is how it's that is why it's called being traumatized, because it's showing up now in not so good ways. And so what I'm trying to do is just talk about some of the things that may have happened, talk about some of the ways that we can move through it. We can't make it like it didn't happen. We have to acknowledge the past. We have to acknowledge the events. But now we want to look at how can we heal? How can we move forward? And so knowing your worth really, I think, does start when you're young. But if you didn't get it, it doesn't mean that you can't learn. It doesn't mean that you can't progress and you can't get better. So some of the things that come out of not knowing your self-worth when you're young are probably some of the things that I went through. Sometimes you can become involved in relationships with other people where you are seeking, you're seeking that validation. You're seeking the attention. You want to be loved. You want to feel loved. And so you're in those relationships and you really, you're not necessarily there to add anything, to give anything. You're actually trying to get something. You're trying to be filled, for something that you have a void in that area. And so that's what happened to me. And it can be very dangerous, because especially as young people, you don't always know the things that you should. You don't have that wisdom yet. You don't have that foresight. And then sometimes you're dealing with another young person that is also maturing, that is also growing up. And so together it can be volatile. And then there are times when it's not necessarily a young person that you're dealing with. You can become prey for older men. In my case, you can become prey for even people that show up pretending to be friends, and they realize that you are weak and that you are a people pleaser. You're someone who's looking for something, and they will exploit that. And so that's one of the big disadvantages when you don't know your worth. That's one of the problems that can be really dangerous. And then there are inward problems. We can become depressed when we don't feel valued, when we don't feel loved in our home. We can become depressed. We can take that, and basically as we go through life, we can just never feel good enough. And it doesn't always mean that we're going to act on feelings of depression or that they will lead to suicide, as they do in some cases. As we know, we've seen in the news lately, there have been a number of suicides. But self-harm can come out of that for anywhere from your teenage years on up. It can be even preteen. So it's really important to establish a strong sense of self-worth in yourself, in your children, in your family members, just as soon as you can, because there are a lot of different dangers and there are a lot of different things out there that can happen. And it, as I think I spoke about it a couple weeks ago, it can even extend into the workplace with you not knowing how to kind of stand up for yourself, not knowing how people should treat you, and just letting them walk all over you, talk to you any kind of way, underpay you, various things that can happen. And so those are just some of I would say the disadvantages, the negative points that I see it when you don't know your self-worth. And it can just lead to a general sense of just feeling unhappy. Right? Okay. And I deal with this, I have a child that is going through depression and anxiety, and I've spoken openly about it. And, we love on her so much, but you have to remember that all the kids need that. Everybody needs love. And so that's truly where it develops from, just showing rather than telling. All right. So you have to show it. So when we don't have a good sense of self-worth, what are some of the things that we can do? What are some of the ways that we can improve that feeling within us? And I think that Yes, self-care. You hear that a lot, but I think that self-care is really one of them. Because if you didn't grow up with it, it's not there. So where are you going to get it from? And you don't need to go seeking validation from others. Because listen, God made you just the way you are. And you are perfect the way you are. If there is anything that you need to work on, it should be an internal thing. And yes, we all have flaws. But what I mean is, there is nothing wrong with you existing in this world just like anybody else, right? And so you have to speak that into yourself. And so you do. You start with self-care. You start with eating the best that you can, getting enough sleep, exercising, reading, dancing, doing activities that make you feel good and that make you feel happy and that make you content, I think is probably the better way to put it, because happiness can be fleeting. But when you're content and when you understand, hey, I have a right to be here just like anybody else does. I have unique gifts to give to this world. We all do. And when you begin to pour into yourself, I think that you realize that. And so talking about gifts, that is another way to kind of practice boosting your self-worth. Because if you have a talent, if you have an ability, or even if you just have a passion, you have to go after that. Because that's our whole purpose. We're here to give those gifts that were given to us, to give them back. We're here to share them. Gifts are not just for us to sit down on them and just be like, oh, well, I'm a great writer and, I love to read what I write. No, it's for you to uplift someone else. It's for you to encourage someone else. If you play music, and I tell my oldest daughter this all the time, music isn't just for you. This child plays the piano, the double bass, and she plays the harp. And she's really shy sometimes about being in concert or performing. Well, she likes to be on the orchestra stage, so that's a different story. But I tell her all the time, the music is for all of us. It's not just for you. God didn't give you a talent just for you to sit down and go in your room and play by yourself. And so I'm not forcing her to come perform. I'm just reminding her that to help her get to that comfort level where she can share. And so that's what we have to do. We have to love on ourselves enough that we feel comfortable sharing, that we know, hey, I'm confident in who I am. And even if somebody doesn't like it, it's okay. There might be somebody else that can benefit from it. Okay? And so that's what we do. So we try to improve our self-care. We try to share our gifts as much as we can. We speak positively to ourselves. That's another form of self-care to me. Is, sometimes you can say, oh, gosh, I really messed that up. And sometimes we do mess things up. And there's no harm in that. We learn from mistakes. But when you do mess something up, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. God gives us grace and forgives us on the daily for any number of things that we don't even think about. And so you have to learn to forgive yourself. And you have to learn to give yourself grace too. Because if you beat yourself up, that's just like you being exposed to a bully. You wouldn't just expose yourself to someone and let them beat on you and tell you all kinds of terrible things. Not if you could help it, right? So why would you talk to yourself that way? If you would see a friend that was in need or they were down and you have an encouraging word for them, why wouldn't you have an encouraging word for yourself? Okay, so self-worth doesn't mean that you believe you're better than anybody. It doesn't mean that you believe you're over everybody. It just means that you recognize your gifts are unique and they are just as valuable as anybody else's. You recognize that you, as a person, you have something to give this world. And who knows, it could be just one person, Like they say in church, one soul coming to God is a celebration. And yes, I'm very religious, so, I shouldn't say religious, spiritual. I have that strong connection, so I talk about God. But yeah, in church they say, in the heavens, they rejoice when one soul comes. I rejoice if I can help one person. And so I'm just trying to share that with you so that you realize that it doesn't even have to be anything big. You just share yourself the best that you can. Okay? So, as we move on in this talk, because this is lunchtime for me and I am stealing time away so that I can be here, and I'm very excited that you have joined me, and even those of you that will catch the replay. This is something that is in my heart that I really want to do, and so I'm just making myself more comfortable talking to you guys and just wanting questions, anything that I can help you with. So as I'm getting ready to soon launch a course that I hope will help people that deal with issues of self-worth, women that have been unmothered. That's where I'm going with this. So I'm really excited to be on here today, on here live with you. So as I keep moving in this talk, the next point I wanted to talk about is when you do know your worth. What does that look like? So, and we hear it all the time. And I did share that I had these, I think they're called positive affirmation cards. And I showed them, here's the box. They were a Christmas gift from my daughter to me. And I showed that one of the cards a couple weeks ago was I know my worth, or it was something to that effect. And it made me question if I really did know my worth. Right? Because I struggled with that. Young. Like I said, I went through a lot of what could be dangerous situations. I didn't mention that I was bullied, but I was for many years in lower levels of school. I was bullied a lot. I was targeted even in high school. And so it's because people pick up on that a lot of times. It's like they sense it and they go in for the kill. They sense that, oh, she seems weak. And I was really quiet and I was very shy. Oh, she seems scared. And so sometimes other people will go after that. And that may or may not be a mistake if they come for you. But it doesn't feel good. Even if you have to come out swinging and you have to come out fighting, as I did, it doesn't feel good to be in a situation. And so we want to avoid that. So what does knowing your self-worth look like? Well, I think when you know your self-worth, and this is what I think from my experiences, my short years here on this earth, I think that when you have your boundaries, you've set your boundaries, and you can keep them. I think that's one of the first ways you can tell that you know your self-worth. Because when you have boundaries, if you're just setting them up and people are walking all over you, then certainly you might not value yourself because you're letting other people just do whatever. And then it puts you in a situation where you feel bad or you have to figure something out. And that's not how it should be. We have to learn to respect each other's boundaries. But it starts with you setting them and with you keeping them. So I think that's one of the ways. One of the other things, let's see, I've written here is you don't necessarily need another person's validation. Right? So you don't need somebody to tell you you're awesome. When you're operating in a spirit of high self-worth, you don't need somebody else to tell you, hey, you're beautiful or you're awesome or you're good at that. It's nice. It is very kind when someone pays you a compliment. It is wonderful to do that to each other, but you don't need that in order to feel good about yourself. You don't need that in order to thrive. And make no mistake, everybody likes to hear a kind word. But what I mean is it doesn't destroy you if you're not constantly being uplifted. And I know that's something we see with kids too. Some kids need a lot of praise. But you really have to be careful with that and kind of balance that out with other acts of love and kindness, because it can lead them down a path to being a people pleaser. And so I think it's very important to really know within yourself that you are who you are and you're okay. And so when you don't need the validation from anybody else, you feel a high sense of self-worth. But to get there, the other thing you need is self-acceptance. You have to accept yourself for who you are. And when you do that, you won't constantly need someone else to tell you, oh, you killed that. Oh, that looks good. Or that was great. Or you're the best so-and-so. You don't need that, because you know that however you are, however you show up, you've accepted yourself. And you are saying to yourself, even flaws and all, I love me. I love me. I love who I am. I love, how I'm growing. And when you don't love how you're growing, you have control over improving yourself. And you know that. And so so those two things, boundaries, not needing validation from anyone else to make you see your worth. And there was another thing I wanted to say. Besides operating in your gift and just kind of sharing that with everyone else, another way that you can know that you're operating in a spirit of high self-worth is if you're just content, right? And I mentioned that before, but it means that you do have some things you want to do, but you're content with where you are. And when you're content, it gives you a clear vision to setting more goals. And so your goals give you something to strive for. Your goals say to you, okay, I'm content with where I am. I'm happy, but I have a clear vision at what else I would like to do, or what else I would like to be, where else I would like to go. And so I think those are some of the things that just show that we value ourselves. Because if you don't value yourself, you're probably not going to set goals, right? You might not feel like you can dream and you can do more. But when you value yourself, you are going to be content with where you are, but you're also going to have that vision for where you want to be. And I think that that's key, right? Because we never want to just sit down on gifts, and we never want to kind of keep everything in. The whole purpose of us being here is to share with each other, love on each other, to make the whole family unit stronger, right? We're not here for ourselves. I don't know if you guys have, if you remember that song, I need you and you need me. We're all a part of God's family. But it's true. We need each other, whether we want to admit it or not. And so if you're going to be able to share what you have with everybody else, if you're going to be able to put that out there in the world, then you have to be comfortable with yourself. And you have to know that you are okay. You are okay. Yes, you can always do better. Yes, you should have goals, but you have to know that you are okay and you are highly valuable. Highly. There used to be a saying when I was young. I don't know if I read it, but it said something like, I know I'm somebody because God don't make no junk. And that's it. He doesn't. He doesn't. Each one of us, we're so unique and we're so beautiful. And sometimes that gets lost when we're growing up. Sometimes that gets lost in the struggle. And, I know my mom struggled with things. I know we didn't have everything that we needed. And I know she didn't have everything that she needed. She didn't have all the love that she wanted. And, sometimes was misunderstood. I know that. And so what I'm here speaking on is things we can do to kind of fix that going forward. Unfortunately, we can't go back to the past and turn it around. We can't change it. We have to accept it. And then the traumatic things that are playing out now in our lives, we have to work on that. And so this whole series that I'm going to do is going to be on the 9 benefits that I see from healing. This first one is knowing your self-worth, which we were just talking about, because I think it's key to start there. And of course, like I said, it deals with self-acceptance and a lot. There's a lot to unpack in each one of these topics. But I just think it's so important for us because if we want to break the generational cycles that we're seeing, we have to be intentional about starting somewhere. And so I'm trying to do that work. I talk about being unmothered, and I talk about the 9 steps to healing, which are in my book. But really, in order to make change, we have to start. We can't be afraid to have the conversations. We can't keep all those subjects that were taboo, hush hush, and we can't talk about them. We have to start talking about it. And that's going to be a number of things. And we have to talk with our young people about them because that's kind of how it got here. We didn't want to talk before. We didn't want to share. We didn't want to teach. But I want to talk. I want to share and I want to teach the little that I know. And with that said, I don't know everything. This is my experience. This is what I've been through. This is what I've learned. I can always learn more. My ears are open. They're open to you, whatever questions you might have. They are open if you want to talk. I'll listen. I don't know. I feel like sometimes I've become that person. It can even be at work. People will pull me aside and, just want to talk. And we need to operate in our gifts. And I believe that mine is to help people. I want to help you if you have been unmothered. I want to help you if you've gone through something difficult. And I think that I have some tools for you. So that is why I'm here, because I want to change the game. The way things are going, I'm not okay with it. I'm not all right with it. And so I'm going to be talking about self-worth. I'm going to be talking about how healing can help you be a better parent, how it can help you be a better friend, help you at work, help you set your boundaries. There's so much to unpack here. And so I'm just excited to be here. I am happy to finally be operating in what I feel like is my purpose. Until God shows me what else He wants me to do, this is what I'm doing. I'm writing books. I'm sharing tools and steps and keys and everything that I can that I've learned. And I'm just, speaking about His goodness. So if you want to be a part of that, you can follow me on this page. I also have my Facebook page. Like I said, I was supposed to be live on there today, but me and Facebook and Meta and their business account. So that's a whole different story. But anyway, yeah, I have those platforms, and you can also visit my website if you want to learn more. I have my book there, actually my 2 books. And so you can learn about the one that I just published, which is Unmothered, A Daughter's Guide to Acceptance, Healing, and Renewal. I do have a blog there where I am posting positive things, and it does have the 9 steps to healing that are laid out in the book. I have that posted. And so I'm just going to try to just get all cylinders going for you so that hopefully the things that you need, I can help provide you with. And if I can't, I can help you look for the answer to them. So that's what I'm here for. That's what my page is about. That's who I am. And yeah. So, I don't know. I see a couple people on. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but just wanna thank you guys for joining. And like I said, thank you for if you're watching the replay, thank you for coming in and watching that. And yeah, you can also DM me if you have questions. I'm open to that. And I'm also offering free consultations. So I have a scheduling button on my website. And if you want to go there, you can certainly schedule some time and I'll listen to whatever your concerns are. But I'm talking about all things unmothered and how we can heal moving forward and how we can break the cycle and start living our best lives. So that is my talk today, guys. I don't see any questions from those that have joined. But yeah, it has been fun. It's always good to get on here and say hello and see the people. So yeah. Well, if you think of something and you need, hit me up. And until then, I will see you guys the next time.